Hello, everyone. So for today's assignment, you are expected to go back into your informational writing pieces and see how you can edit it. Now, editing involves two major parts: checking for punctuation and making sure the punctuation is correct, and checking for spelling and making sure that you've spelled everything to the best of your abilities using known spelling patterns. Well, one of those parts I actually have a book for. It's called Punctuation Takes a Vacation, and this book is going to help us really understand why punctuation is so important to our writing pieces. So let's go ahead and take a look. Punctuation Takes a Vacation by Robin Pulver. Day after day, the punctuation marks showed up in Mr. Wright's classroom. Day after day, they did their jobs. They put up with being erased and replaced and corrected and ignored and moved around. Then, on the hottest, stickiest day the class had ever seen, right in the middle of a lesson about commas, Mr. Wright mopped his forehead and said, "Let's give punctuation a vacation." As the kids cheered and headed for the playground to cool off, the punctuation marks stared at one another in disbelief. Huh? "Is this the thanks we get?" asked a question mark. "Well," huffed an exclamation point. Now, said a comma. "We should take a vacation," said a period. "They'll soon learn how much they need us." "It's 11 now," said a colon. "Let's leave at 11:02. "Great," said an exclamation point. "Don't leave without us," yelled the apostrophes. Whoosh! Punctuation rushed out the door. And whoosh! They rushed back in to grab the quotation marks, who were too busy talking to pay attention. That part's so funny, because remember, quotation marks go around quotes or dialogue in our writing. So when they're talking, they're having dialogue. When Mr. Wright's class returned from the playground, they couldn't wait to find out what happened in Chapter 4 of their book, Ace Scooper, Dog Detective. Mr. Wright opened his mouth to read aloud, but then he stopped and stared. "This is weird. The punctuation is missing. Uh-oh, where could it be? Yikes, maybe punctuation took a vacation. We are in big trouble now." That sounded awful. There were no punctuation marks in this entire part of the book, and it just sounded like it made no sense at all. And Mr. Wright was right. Nothing could make sense without punctuation. A couple days later, the school secretary delivered a small bundle of postcards to Mr. Wright's class. They were postmarked, "Take a break late. Do you miss us? How much? Why couldn't we take a vacation sooner? Guess who? We flop, we plop, we stop. We stay put in our lounge chairs. We are happy thinking our complete thoughts. Thoughtfully yours, Sentence Stoppers." Dear friends, swimming, sailing, sunning, soaring, water skiing. Next time we must remember bug spray, toothpaste, flashlight, water shoes. Sincerely, list makers. Greetings to Mr. Wright's class. This postcard doesn't take the place of a letter. If anybody takes the place of a letter, that's us. It's our job. We know we're possessive, but that's the way we are. Don't forget us while we're gone. Substitutes. A big hello from Vacation Paradise, where the water is as clear as a well-punctuated sentence. We talk all day, we talk all night. Too busy talking to write any more. The Yakety-Yaks. Kids, writing this on a schedule at 1:15. Yummy lunch at 11:55. Going swimming at 3 sharp. The timekeepers. Wow, what a ride! You should try tubing. Scary. Fun. Yikes! Hold on. We want Mommy! Emotional us. I wonder who those letters are coming from. They do give us a lot of clues throughout the writing. Maybe you can guess. Well, the kids guessed who wrote the postcards, and they wanted to write back, but they couldn't write without punctuation. The best they could do was borrow some from Mr. Rongo's class next door, where punctuation seemed to be running wild. I guess those punctuation marks for Mr. Rongos didn't take a vacation too. Dear punctuation, please come back. We need you. We miss you too. Life at school is difficult without you. We can't do reading, writing, or riddles without punctuation. Chapter 4 of our book, Ace Scooper, doesn't make sense. We will never take punctuation for granted again. Won't you please come back before 1000 on Friday? Mr. Wright says, punctuation, please come home. Sincerely, Mr. Wright's class. Oh my gosh, that sounded terrible too. Were those punctuation marks in the correct place? Because I don't think so. Punctuation, take a break late. Urgent, hurry, from Mr. Wright's class. They need help. So the punctuation marks returned to Mr. Wright's classroom to do the job only they could do. Mr. Rongo's unruly punctuation scrambled back to their own classroom. We have so much to tell you. Who did you miss the most? It's good to be back in Mr. Wright's class. Commas, periods, exclamation points, question marks, colons, apostrophes, quotation marks. Take your places. 10 a.m. Time to study us. Hooray for punctuation. The end. So there are several different punctuation rules we need to follow. Quotation marks belong at the beginning and the end of words a person speaks. The question mark comes at the end of a sentence. You're going to use a comma to separate each item in a series or list. A comma also separates two complete thoughts in a sentence. Use an exclamation point after a word or sentence that expresses strong feelings. An apostrophe takes the place of a letter or changes two words into one word. An apostrophe is used with the letter S to show ownership or possession. The colon lets you know what time it is. It separates the big guys, which are the hours, from the little guys, the minutes. And the period, which is probably the one that we're using the most, is the stop sign at the end of a sentence or complete thought. It is also used in abbreviations. For example, Mrs. Hall would have a period at the end of Mrs. since that's an abbreviation. Punctuation marks work together to make reading and writing flow smoothly. We want to make sure that we're using the correct punctuation mark to help us make our writing sound the best that it possibly can. Thinking back to that page I read where the punctuation marks were all jumbled up, if your writing had this many punctuation errors, it might sound very, very confusing to your reader. So try to think about your audience. And if you want, you can have your parent or your brother or sister or a cousin who's around read your writing to make sure that it sounds right, making sure that your punctuation is in the correct spot. I can't wait to see what your writing comes up with, and I can't wait to see how you've edited everything perfectly to the best of your abilities. And I hope this helps a little bit when you go into your editing of your paper. You all have a great rest of your afternoon, and I will see you later.